Hi, everyone, and welcome to my new platform, The Legal Score. I am Sonia, and most of you all know me from, Prim and Proper Sports and all the sports shows I've done. And just a brief introduction. So, I've had a lot of people over the years, honestly, ask me if there was anything I ever talked about other than sports because they were like, "Hey, we want to definitely support you and watch your show, but I still don't know anything about sports, girl." So let me know when you talk about other things, and I'll be more than happy to come on, support. So that's what this show is about. This is my first episode, March 7th, 2026, and the show will air every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And let me go ahead and let you guys know that all thoughts, comments, what have you, relayed by me are not legal advice. I am not an attorney. And so you should always know that anything I speak about are my sole opinions and not the opinions or thoughts or copyright information belonging to anyone else. So I'm going to set up some things here first while I am getting everybody on board because I'm waiting for some people to come on. This is my first time doing this. Yes, this is a new show. So we're going to be talking about, while I'm setting this up, let me go ahead and give you guys a little backstory here. We're going to be talking about everything in life outside of sports. Sometimes it may cross over into sports. But for the most part, we will be doing life practicalities, legal things things going on in life and law, faith, and things like that. I will have special guests on. This is my first show, so I'm doing it solo to set the platform up. So, for those of you who have already been following me on the platforms, just look forward to the name change soon, but the handle information should remain the same. And so, I will get this shared out here shortly to some other people. And I hope everyone's having the most amazing afternoon. It is almost 80 degrees. And don't forget, guys and ladies, to set your clocks up an hour tonight before you go to bed so that you don't oversleep tomorrow. All right, so I'm going to share this live stream and go from there. How's everybody doing? You guys drop in, say hello, let me know that you're on so I can shout you out. And I think that's all I'm going to share for now. I'll have to come back on this later. Acting solo right now, don't have my production team. So, all right, guys, let's get started with this legal news and life applicability news. I'm going to be thriving off your engagement. So, your comments are definitely appreciated. I know this is new for you guys as it is for me. So, don't worry. About a second or third episode, you guys will get the hint of what's going on. All right, let's start out with some Supreme Court news. Now, even though I talk about legal issues, like I said, I'm not an attorney. These are going to be topics of interest to all of us. The first one, believe it or not, is guns and ganja. This case is literally United States versus Himani. Ali Daniel Himani is a Texas resident, had his home searched by the FBI. They found a Glock and some marijuana. He admitted to using cannabis every other day. So, as an avid marijuana smoker, weed smoker, as y'all say. But he wasn't high at the moment of his arrest or at the moment of the search. But he was charged under 18 USC subsection 922, section G, which bans unlawful users of controlled substances from owning guns. Now, this is a Texas law, guys. This is the thing, and this is the reason why it's of interest. There are a lot of states, and some of you perhaps out there in my viewer land, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, what have you, that do indulge in marijuana. And so there are a lot of states that are trying to combine the two issues into one. If you are a marijuana smoker, you are not to be owning a gun at all, which is like basically everybody. So there's a legal conflict that the state of Texas is putting on the map for everybody to see in this Supreme Court case. And it's the government's view. They're arguing that drug users are inherently dangerous or unpredictable, And so this is going to be based off of 18th century laws, the old black letter law, guys, that restricts those people who were habitual drunkards from having weapons. It's the same type of law that they're trying to bring back into existence. And let's be clear, let's be honest, because this channel now is about honesty and transparency. In my opinion, and because I said I'm not an attorney, I'm just soliciting my opinion, and I'm looking forward to your comments as well. This is categorizing a group of people. If you could say someone based off of their consumption of marijuana or their ownership of a weapon makes them dangerous, or the two combined make them a dangerous person, what type of people do you guys think that embraces? It is another tool of the government to show a disadvantaged ethnicity, primarily in brown and black persons. And so, especially in Texas, where you have a high population of Latin Americans, or you have a high population of Latinos, Latinas as well, without the American correlation, you are targeting them. This gentleman's last name is Hamani, so that lets you know that's typically not an American name. But to say that basically he wasn't high at the time that his home was searched by the FBI, I'd like to know about the probable cause that initiated this search. Was this, someone, a neighbor that decided to call in and say, hey, I'm tired of smelling marijuana over there? Because let me be clear, as most of you all know, I live in Atlanta and I do not like the smell of marijuana. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I've never liked it. And so it may be one of those situations like, okay, what people do in their house is what they do. That's their decision. I don't want to walk out into a common area, or I'm driving and I'm smelling, marijuana from your vehicle, from your person, from your house or whatever. So I don't know if it's one of those situations. We'll get to that in a minute. But nonetheless, this guy's rights look like they were violated. They have a Glock that they found in his home. The home in most states is the same as being in your car. Your car is an extension of your home. It's your person. And they also found some marijuana. And he verbally told them, probably without a lawyer being present, since this was at the time of the search, that, hey, yeah, I use marijuana every other day. I mean, some states it's legal. Look at Colorado, look at Las Vegas, Nevada. But in Texas, it looks like there is an issue with that being a controlled substance and them owning weapons. Hermione's defense was, this is a vague law. This should be voided because it's very vague. What defines what a user is? Is this a user that, how many times do you have to take on the smoking, the consummation, the whatever, the consumption, of marijuana for you to be considered a user? Even if it's once a year, are you still a user? Once a week? What is that? So his defense team is like, define user. Define what you mean by user. They're also arguing the fact that he was not under the influence of marijuana while holding a gun. His rights should not be stripped. This is the Bruin test, guys. I know you guys don't know a lot about this. Bruin, Bruen. Supreme Court now requires gun laws to have a historical analog from the 1700s or the 1800s. I mean, we literally are like making our country be in the Wild Wild West at this point. Justices are debating about how much John Adams drank for breakfast to decide if a guy in 2026 can actually have a Glock and a joint. Like, that is crazy. John Adams being one of the former lawmakers, commander in chiefs, what have you, from way back in the day. And this is where it comes in, like, a lot of law is irrelevant. There are a lot of things in life that don't change, but there are a lot of things in life that do. And this would most certainly be one. If Hamani wins this case, the federal government loses its main tool for disarming cannabis users in legal states. And if he loses, millions of Americans are technically prohibited persons because they have a weapon and they decide they may want to have what's in their state a legal edible. This is interesting because a lot of us own weapons in our homes for protection. And if you are on medicinal marijuana, any type of marijuana, even if you have a legal script for it or it's legal in your state, having a weapon negates you being able to legally consume that marijuana. So this is going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. That case is really wild to say the least. I thought I would start out with that because that's something of interest, as a lot of states are still weighing whether or not they want to, legalize marijuana. And that case specifically highlights Second Amendment precedent. So if you guys don't know the amendments, you could Google them, but that one is very important. Another case that is out, landmark ruling this past last couple of weeks, February 20th, the Learning Resources Incorporated versus Trump. So, in a landmark ruling, the court struck down specific tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, calling them unlawful. Now, this has led to a massive wave of refund orders for importers as of March 4th. This affects all of you all and myself who shop from places like Temu, Shein, even some things on Amazon are internationally made. And those ships were literally just sitting in our ports. They were not able to, you know, unload and get those items over to us because they were not paying the tariffs that Trump had placed on them. And the Supreme Court said, look, dude, you have not only imposed tariffs trying to supposedly get a control over our billions of dollars deficit, but now you have overcharged these countries, and now these countries are owed a refund. So the refunds were supposed to start going out March 4th for different things that these companies had either already imported or were in the process of importing when this reversal took place. So, good thing about that is those of us who do shop at Temu, Shein, and like I said, some Amazon affiliates will be able to get our items more expedited now because can't impose those tariffs. I just, I really feel that some of this stuff is just like we're not really even trying to do that. We're like, as a people, we're not interested in that. These tariffs were imposed 2024 and 2025, so an entire year, almost 2 years of a tax hike. Um, and Trump used this old law called the IAPA to try to jump over Congress's voting or permissions and literally hit so many countries with massive taxes on imported goods. I mean, he said he was trying to bring the work back to the United States. And I respect that in some senses because it's nothing more frustrating. And this is not discriminatory at all, but it's nothing more frustrating to me than when I call customer service and I cannot even understand the call taker, the customer service rep, or they can't understand me. And it's apparent that they're just reading from a script and neither of us are getting anywhere. So there's been a lot of offshore outsourcing done outside of this country, not just from that perspective, but also from services. And so Trump was just like, hey, we got Americans that need jobs and we got Americans that need to be able to manufacture these goods. And I'm going to bring it back here. But you shouldn't be imposing tariffs. He was literally trying to make it so bad. I watched one press conference with him. It was when he sat down and he just, has a way of making other lawmakers feel so inferior. And this is like, in my opinion, I always think back to the unfortunate events of September 11th, 2001. So for those of us who were here and those who were not, you I'm sure you guys have heard of history or whatnot. But the September 11th attacks, I remember reading somewhere where the guys that came over and orchestrated and executed these heinous acts against our country literally said that they were doing Allah's will because they felt as though America acted as they were better than everyone else in the world, better than other countries, that they came off with a superior mentality and that they needed to be humble, and they being all of us. And so when I see things such as the moves that's been made with these tariffs, the first thing that popped into my mind was that moment. We've had presidential leaders before that have engaged in warfare, but I don't remember any of them having the condescending type of attitude when speaking with other leaders of the world. We are currently, unfortunately, in another war right now, and it is a very paramount time for us to take inventory of our surroundings and everything because we have a way of intermeddling in everybody else's business but our own. And I, to the life of me, do not understand why we have homeless veterans sleeping on the streets of Atlanta, of Chicago, of New York, of Houston, LA, all the major cities, Miami, even in the rural areas. These women and men have fought for our country and have come back and lost it all. Now, there was a time I worked for a foreclosure firm, and they ended up coming out with the SCRA search, which was the military way of searching to see by social if this person was in the military or had any service connection at any point during the time that they had their mortgage or before, because there are certain protections that have gone into place to allow service personnel not to lose their homes while they are abroad. So, um, to see that is just wild to me that we are supposedly, engaging in this warfare because there was a nuclear weapon that was being, you know, designed and about to be tested, that we were about to be in their main headlights. And Secretary of States and Defense and people have spoken out and was like, no, it has not gotten to that level. It was not that serious. Yes, there was some designs, but there was no way that we would know, and I don't know. A part of me is like, okay, he's proactive, but another part of me is like, now you've already started losing servicemen and women, and condolences to those families. I know people feel like, okay, well, that's what they signed up for, and they did. But is this all really even necessary that we are in this position right now? All right. So the next case, Urias Orellana versus Bondi. This is a case that there was a unanimous decision about how much power immigration judges have versus federal appeal courts. The Supreme Court actually sided with the government, saying that appeal courts must defer to the original immigration judge's findings of fact. And that's like all of this deportation, all of this ICE that is spread out throughout, and a lot of cities have come forth and said they are no longer willing to be a safe city, a haven for detainees. They don't want to be involved because of all of the crackdowns that have come along from the federal government. This is a quiet case that has a very loud impact. Not a lot going on around it, but it makes it much harder to overturn a deportation order once a local judge has made a call. And so you got to look at efficiency versus due process. A lot of people that are not familiar with courts and everything, they'll always talk about judicial efficiency, moving the cases, making sure that everyone has their day or has a chance to be heard, but as brief as possible because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of cases that each judge in every jurisdiction must hear. So is that due process being waived? Is this defendant, alleged defendant, not getting their real day in court because of this immigration reform? That's going to be really important because there are a lot of people, who now it's out there that not only are people who were possibly born in America apart, but people who were already afforded their legal rights in the form of green card or permanent visas. Now they're saying, if there was any type of um, inaccuracy with their applications for that, they're going to look at that like that's, a lie, and they're going to rescind their visas. They're going to rescind their green cards, and they're going to be deported. And I guess my question is, I know people, who were adopted from other countries and who have been in America their entire lives, their adult lives, I should say. And then, we have students that still come over on visas or what have you. And they are all caught up in this. There's just been a lot of contingents and a lot of things that states cannot do individually to actually have an opportunity to negate this. So anyway, um yeah, that's where we are, and that's how our country is looking um at the moment. Now, let's go over to one that may be a little more interesting, especially because a lot of my audience that's already here are my sports audience. So we will talk about um, the first case is going to be the Sean Diddy Combs. Now, you guys know all the stuff going on with him. Well, he actually has an appeal going on right now. After a high profile case that he had last year, he was convicted on 2 counts of transportation of prostitution, for prostitution, the Mann Act. And he was acquitted on the heavier charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. And he's serving a 50-month sentence. However, I did see a couple of days ago that his release date will go from June to April. So he shaved off a couple of months for participating in some in custody classes they've had. His legal team just launched a massive, aggressive appeal that will be heard on oral arguments April 9th. So that's coming up here in right around a month and 2 days. There was a lenient sentence already given, considered the reputational death. I mean, he was once a billionaire. Now he's fighting for a reversal in the Second Circuit. More civil suits have come out since February of this year, meaning that even if he wins this appeal, he's going to be financially bankrupt. I mean, his bank account is definitely going to be beholden to all of this. Um, and so it's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out. All right. Blake Lively is another celeb versus Justin Baldoni, excuse me. The It Ends With Us stars fallout basically started as a press tour tension for the 2024 movie, became a full-blown $160 million lawsuit. Lively is alleging sexual harassment and retaliation against Baldoni and his production company. And just this week, the two of them did appear in court together for a settlement conference. This is like mediation, things like that. If they don't reach a deal, then they will be going to trial May 2026. This is a big look at behind the scenes nightmares, guys. I mean, there were unsealed texts between Lively and even Taylor Swift that suggested that the legal battle actually strained their famous relationship. It's a perfect segment on how Hollywood's Golden Girl is just navigating a very public, very expensive fight. All right, you guys remember Alec Baldwin a couple of years ago, unfortunately, had an onset incident where someone was lost their lives on set with a loaded gun. Now this is the Rust aftermath. So you guys probably think about it like this. It wasn't deliberate, so it was involuntary manslaughter. They dismissed it with prejudice in 2024 because the prosecutors came out that they hid some key evidence that would have swayed the case. So anytime you hide evidence, prosecution or defense, you have to be able to know that this stuff is going to come out. And so, all right, let's see. We got a comment. Thank you, David. Thanks for joining me. My first comment on the new platform here. He said, yeah, that's one of the hardest parts about situations like the one around Sean Diddy Combs. When powerful or infamous people get accused, a lot of times the first reaction people have is doubt, jokes, or defending the celebrity instead of listening. That sends a message to victims that speaking up might just bring more pain. People questioning them, attacking them, or calling them liars. That's a big reason many people who experience abuse stay quiet for years. It's not always because they, I'm assuming, feel comfortable speaking about that. And you're absolutely right, David. And thank you for that very detailed comment because it is. But and it doesn't matter. Celebrities that break the law and have victims of any sort, not just Sean Diddy Combs. Let's look at the Alex Murdaugh case in South Carolina in the lowlands, the low country. Um, he was a powerful lawyer. His dad was a lawyer. His grandfather was a lawyer. The Murdaughs were the who's who of that area, the low country area outside of Charleston, South Carolina. And because of, I still cannot grasp, it all came down to greed. It all came down to not having enough money. It's come out since he was convicted of murdering his son and his wife, and allegedly the housekeeper, one of the housekeepers. Um, they still feel like another young man down there that lost his life had something to do with this entire scenario. But he has stricken that name. They literally went in the courthouse and took his grandfather's picture out of the courthouse because the name is just tarnished down there. And he's trying to appeal. But not only did you do this to your own family, but you were also found to have stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from your clients. And I'm just thinking this is how this all started. You owed these people their money. You were about to lose your law license and, in fact, your law practice. And because you owed all this money, now you have to come up with a way to pay these people their insurances, things like that, cases you've settled. So you decide you're going to unalive your own wife and son for insurance and pay it. His oldest son was a student at South Carolina State School of Law and was expelled for cheating, supposedly, allegedly. Again, I'm not a lawyer. These are just my opinions. You guys can look this stuff up. But the anguish and the drama around their name as a whole. And now he's appealing. He's appealing the murders. And I watched part of the trial. The main point they were talking about was how the night of the murders, he knew that he had killed his wife, and he took the phone in some kind of way. He took the phone, was running with it, took it off of her person, was running with the phone, and started calling her phone from his phone as if to look like he was trying to call her during the time that she was actually murdered. And so the prosecutor was like, her phone was tracking steps long after she was murdered. And I'm assuming she had Apple Health or one of those apps on there that, you do for fitness or what have you. But the weird thing was, I'm assuming she was wearing a watch that was not tracking any steps. And so that's how they were able to narrow down that he had her phone and he called it to try to establish his alibi. And in doing so, while you're running with her phone, you're calculating the same amount of steps that you would have gotten with your phone, even though she's lying on the ground deceased. And then you drive off the property and you toss it out down the road somewhere. But he's appealing his case as well. So back to the Alex Baldwin. Now he has a new case that started in 25, 26. This is still ongoing. He's flipping the script. Alec Baldwin is who I'm speaking about, the actor. He's now suing the state for malicious prosecution. He's saying, that the precedent of a celebrity being targeted by the government, that he's going to set that. He's suing the government after their botched trial. Now, let's be clear. Prosecutors hid evidence, but this case was dismissed with prejudice. So, just for clarification purposes, and this is your legal definition for today. When a case is dismissed with prejudice, and I know this, I'm just trying to make sure I read it, means that it's permanently terminated by a judge and cannot be refiled by the plaintiff, which would be the state. Now, if they were dismissing this without prejudice, that means anytime circumstances change, they could come back and recharge him. Now, this is different from a criminal case in some instances, because in the way you charge a person from higher tiers, like there's murder, then there's involuntary manslaughter, then there's second degree murder. Well, it's murder, second degree murder, then manslaughter, then involuntary manslaughter. So if you actually start with the higher tier, you can no longer go back to the higher tier. You have to prove the elements of what you can prove out of all of those charges. But if you cannot, then you have a dismissal with prejudice, because to dismiss without prejudice means kind of like the same of double jeopardy. You can bring it back. All right, guys, welcome in. Hey, everybody, welcome in. This is the Legal Score. It's my new show. I'm still doing Prim and Proper Sports, but it's all now under one umbrella. That's why I call it the Legal Score. We'll be talking about law, cases, life, and sports as well. Score, like you score. And I'll be here every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as my sports show on Friday nights at 9 p.m. and Wednesday at 9. So thank you guys for joining me, and make sure you share this live. David says, yeah, that's the frustrating part when people in power seem to get away with things. Sends the message that bad choices don't have consequences, and makes people lose trust in the system because it feels like money, fame, and influence protect them. I'm going to put a pin in that because I'm going to come right back to that comment, David. That's a solid point. Hi, Jeremy. How are you doing? It's so good to see you on today. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me. I'll have to have you on real soon on my Wednesday show. It's been high time. So David makes a solid point, and I'll be having a guest on here in a couple of weeks, that it kind of seems like the opposite, even though this person that we're going to be talking about was a celebrity that was murdered in the 90s, and that case is still unsolved. I'm going to be having a special guest here on the next couple of weeks that is from Brooklyn, New York, that is a DJ up there, and does a lot of stuff around celebrities that are in that area. And he's going to be talking about the Christopher Wallace case, the Notorious B.I.G. case, which Puffy is alleged to have some dealings with that as well. So we'll be talking about that in the next couple of weeks. Of course, in the next couple of days will be the 29th anniversary of the murder of the Notorious B.I.G. Next year will be 30 years that he was killed on March 9th, 1997, out in Los Angeles, California. So it's just a whole lot of stuff that's been swirled around that. We'll be talking about that soon. But so I mentioned that because sometimes it feels like money and fame does influence and protect people. A bigger case that I do not want to get into a whole lot of, that everybody's watching, is the Epstein files. It's diabolical to look at some of the footage that I've seen. And I know AI is out there, so you have to take everything you see with a grain of salt, because people can make you look and say and do things that you have no idea you're doing because of AI. But to see all the names, I did see last week, and I still haven't watched the entire deposition of William Jefferson Clinton. Bill Clinton was testifying in the Epstein files case. You know, Trump's name is there. Matter of fact, I saw a video with him yesterday, with some young females dancing around or what have you, with a younger version of him. But nonetheless, that is disturbing. And so when you look at not political affiliations, when you look at just human decency towards people, to be able to purchase and sell another human being and to demean, demoralize, and dehumanize them is something that I never thought in my life that I would see. And people are literally so evil. I know that a lot of people don't, read or believe in the Bible, but I do. And every time I hear something that is so sickening to my core, I think of how God destroyed the earth the first time because he said man's heart was on the evil continually. Like, in other words, every second of the day, they were thinking of something more deplorable to do that would be even more deplorable than the last time they did something. And the Bible says it grieved God that he even created man. Like, it broke his heart because we were supposed to be in his image. And Satan's involvement, which has still been, has just tanked the perception of man. So I totally get that. But to see that type of thing, and we'll talk about that in the weeks ahead, as well. All right. Some positive news regarding some legal stuff. Jonathan Majors, you guys remember him. He's now on the Daily Wire. He was convicted of some domestic situations. He's since now, in a relationship with Megan Good. They seem like they're doing really well. After being dropped, he got dropped by Marvel. They are not playing that. They dropped him after being convicted of this assault. He's been pretty quiet, but as of February, late February, he's officially signed on for a new action film produced by Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire. So I'm glad to see the turnaround. I know that some things can happen with people that, it would appear one way, but it's another way. But there's never an excuse to physically, mentally, um, spiritually, any kind of way abuse another person. I don't care who you are, male or female. It's no excuse. So he's basically coming out from the cancel culture. I don't know, if this is a right wing platform for a legitimate comeback for him, or if this is like a kind of like a rehashing of his A-list days, or if those days are possibly completely over. Like, sometimes you just cannot come back from things. My dad used to always tell me, no matter what you do in life, there's always going to be someone out there that says they remember when. And so I just always think I want to remember when for me to be positive, not like, okay, yeah, you did this, you ended world hunger, what have you. But I remember when, you hijacked this bank or whatever, just things like that. That's just an example. All right. So, let's talk a little bit about one of the sports figures that is coming up here in the next several weeks, because I am, talking about the legal score. So none other than Stephon Diggs. Now, you guys know right before the Patriots made their way to the Super Bowl, it was just really, 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 it almost looked like it was superficial. He had this back and forth with his chef that was a female, and allegedly it went from text to verbal to physical. And the Patriots have since released him. Now, you guys will remember the beginning of the season, he was on a boat with some type of pink crystal substance. They got over that, whatever that was that he had. Then the season started. He looked okay. And now we have this incident involving his chef. And at the same time, he was in a relationship and a new dad with Cardi B's son. This case is very high stakes. It because it caused a Massive contract dispute because they thought they had really found their guy in Stephon Diggs, and definitely a roster shakeup. So for all you guys and ladies who do fantasy or whatever, or Patriots fans that were looking forward to him doing big things in New England, you will not see that. Just 3 days ago, they actually severed ties with him. The main incident, and I still believe this, is because he's facing those felony charges in Massachusetts for felony strangulation, y'all, and misdemeanor assault charges. This was a private chef he had, just to give you guys some context. Around Christmas, right around December, what have you, unpaid wages that he supposedly owed this chef. She says that he physically assaulted her. The most serious detail in the police report is her claim that she had difficulty breathing during the physical attack. So that's where the strangulation comes from. Of course, Diggs appeared in court February 13th, right after the Patriots lost the Super Bowl and Cardi B disappeared during the Super Bowl. Even though she had spent millions of dollars on a post celebration, no matter what the outcome, she was going to have this big party. And that's another story for another day. He showed up with one of his kids' moms and the kid, and just a lot of stuff. But I mean, what do you expect from someone that had 3 or 4 women pregnant at the same time with their kids, with his kid? Like, this guy is a joke. He's a joke. And he's not even all that. I don't know what people see in Stephon Diggs. He's just an average dude, real talk. So anyway, he pled not guilty, of course, and he's being represented by Mitchell Schuster, claiming, of course, that the allegations are baseless and purely a money dispute. So he has a pretrial hearing coming up on April 1st, and his character versus his talent. Now, this is a big debate because the Patriots supported him through the Super Bowl while those charges were still pending. But as soon as they were no longer contenders, definitely not the winners, they cleaned house and they, got him out of there. The other thing is Stephon was structured for a massive cap hit this year, $26.5 million. And the Patriots, supposedly, this is from the business side, asked him to restructure his contract to save the team this money. Like, okay, dude, you want 26.5 million. We got it. We got you, but we don't got it right now. Like, this is a lot of teams are facing financial issues, even though it was gone before and approved for the salary cap for each team to be raised by Roger Goodell when the season commenced. This is concluded and commenced for next season. It was just not going to be sufficient. So they were like, hey, we need you to restructure your contract. So reports came out that he refused, and he refused any of the terms to be revised. He essentially put the Patriots in a position that they would either have to pay him or cut him. And so they chose to cut him. Now he's 32 years old. He's had a great season, over 1,000 yards, but with a pending felony and a refusal to take a pay cut, because now he's going to be looking for a team to pay him the 26.5. I mean, is this dude considered worth it? Is he toxic or elite? Which one is he? An asset or toxic? Then you look at the situation that was just spun in such a negative way, but that's just what he's portrayed to be with Cardi B. They have the kid that's a tabloid drama. A lot of teams just don't want all this type of drama. I mean, it happens because people are people and athletes are people, and you just can't always escape the drama. But Cardi B has gone out to put a viral clip out defending him from stage, but basically saying, they're definitely not together anymore. So this is more like a pop culture bridge. Diggs isn't just a sports story anymore. He's like a TMZ regular. So, when you look at things like that, you got to kind of figure out where you're going to be on the board of things happening, and just how this all plays out. As I get ready to close out, I'm going to talk about another case that's gotten a little bit quiet from now. Let's see. Antonio Brown. Now, you guys will remember that he's got some stuff going on in Florida. He's potentially facing a 30-year prison sentence, y'all. Now, if you don't know or you think this went away because they haven't been talking about it a lot, you need to look up what's going on. I'll give you guys a brief context. Second degree attempted murder is what he's charged with in Florida. He's awaiting this stand your ground ruling based on him and this person. He got into a very physical altercation outside of a celebrity boxing match in Miami. This was hosted by streamer Aiden Ross, and prosecutors are claiming that he got into a fist fight with a man named Zul Karnane Kwame Nantambu. And after the fight was broken up, surveillance, people's cameras, everything, you can't do nothing, y'all. It's cameras everywhere, Ring cameras, ADT, everything. Everybody's watching. And then people have their phones out, and everyone knows who Antonio Brown is. So you see Antonio Brown fighting, you're like, oh, snap, it's Antonio Brown. Let me go live. Let me show what's happening. Well, they got into this fight, and the video shows that after the fight was broken up, like there's no longer a threat. Antonio is shown grabbing a gun from a security guard who intervened to break up this physical altercation. And he then began chasing Nantambu and fired 2 shots as Nantambu was running away. One bullet grazed Nantambu's neck. So this is very, like, he didn't miss, guys. He hit him. And, the neck is like, okay, that's your carotid artery. 1 or 2 inches or a milli-inch or whatever. And this guy could have lost his life because of Antonio Brown. After this shooting, of course, they issued a warrant. AB left the country, went to Dubai, which, by the way, we have Americans right now stuck in Dubai because of this Iran stuff that's going on right now with our country and them. But anyway, he went to Dubai, y'all, for several months, was making videos, doing posts. I mean, just everything. Living life in a luxury manner while the U.S. Marshals were looking for him. He finally was like, okay, guys, I give up. You could come get me. And they went and picked him up in November of this past year. So that shooting happened in May. This dude left like the country. I don't believe Dubai has extradition. I think they don't have reciprocity with the United States, at least not yet. And so that just means you could waive your extradition. You could say, I don't want to go back, and you're like under asylum. You're protected. So anyway, they go and pick him up. As of January of this year, lawyers filed a motion to dismiss the case under Florida's famous stand your ground law. You guys know where that came from. And they argued that he was jumped by a group trying to steal his jewelry and that he fired warning shots in self-defense. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. You have the presumption of innocence. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a law student, and I just happen to know this. So these opinions are just my own, not necessarily facts or providing legal advice. But I will say this. If you see several accounts, I won't even say one video. If you see several accounts from different sources of the same exact act occurring, how do you overcome that this person was actually doing what it is depicted on the video that they were doing? How do you overcome that hurdle? His lawyers are saying, he was jumped, but the reports and the video description for prosecutors are saying there was one person that he was fighting, and that one person and he were separated by a security guard, and the threat was removed. And in the threat being removed, the other person walking away, Antonio reached for a weapon, not even his own weapon. He reached for a weapon belonging to a security guard and decided to use that man's weapon as his own. And he fired it. You didn't just brandish it, you fired it. Florida has a 10, 20, and life statute because the firearm was discharged. That is where this time comes in. You guys always talk about the South having these laws. Florida is the South of the South, and they clearly have this law. Even if he's convicted of just the shooting, y'all, even if they say, hey, he discharged this weapon, Florida has a minimum mandatory of the discharging of the weapon itself of 20 years. 30 years is the maximum. So if he's convicted, Antonio Brown, who's in his 30s, will be admitted to the Florida Department of Corrections for no less than 20 years. And so, just as a sidebar to that, minimum mandatories are laws that were placed in a lot of jurisdictions throughout this country to snab up the big dogs, those people who were the big drug distributors, those people who were running crime rings and things like that. This is prior to RICO, but they go hand in hand. And some states, when you have a violent offense or anything that could have alluded to it being a violent offense, it does not negate the fact that it is a minimum mandatory. And so when the sentencing comes around, there is no downward departure from that because the law sets into place the elements that you must satisfy to illustrate that minimum mandatory sentence being upheld. So if he discharged it and the footage shows he discharged it not once, but twice, the intent was there. Maybe one shot could have been looked at as a warning shot. This is just my opinion. You shot twice, and even in shooting, you aimed it at the victim who did get grazed by the bullet. So a warning shot is usually up in the air, pow, pow, or pow, You shot in the direction the victim was leaving, and you did physically strike the victim. This is going to be a high hurdle to overcome. Not only that, his financial fallout is going to be big. He went from $80 million, y'all, to straight bankruptcy. Chapter 11, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in late 2024, claiming he only had $50,000 in assets despite earning over $80 million in his NFL career. In early 2026, the bankruptcy trustee opposed the filing, accusing him of hiding some of his assets and not disclosing property transfers. That would explain how he was able to ball out in Dubai. And he still owes a celebrity jeweler over $1 million as well for some of his jewelry, for the diamond fingers and a white gold chain he never paid for. Now, he may, be able to say, hey, I was just marketing you or whatever. But, it's just really wild because he has a social media persona still. I mean, he acts like he's still a mogul on his social media. But with the reality of him really being on house arrest while he's waiting for this trial with a GPS ankle, guys, monitor, and a negative network, I mean, I don't know what the scenario would be. The NFL had pipe dreams with him. Steelers had offered, despite the attempted murder charge and the ankle monitor, he posted on social media. This is him, in December, that he would play for the Steelers for free to help them in the playoffs. That's what I'm saying. Like, he still portrays that he is, this person or whatever. And in reality, no team is going to touch him. He's done in the NFL forever. Like, he literally is, and it's sad. Um, it's a tragic arc of him. He had Hall of Fame talent, guys. Like, he literally could have been in the Hall of Fame, but I promise you, even if his name ever came up to be nominated for the Hall, he would not get any votes because his off-field issues, um, have severed his ties with the league, severed his ties with the fan base, and just anyone who was an AB fan is just critically disappointed. And then he jokes about having CTE all the time. He calls it his CTESPN brand. So you just don't know. You hope that he doesn't have CTE, but you're just not for sure. All right, guys, that's all the time I have for today. It's been so great hanging with you all. Thank you so much for the likes, loves, and comments. If you don't see the live indicator, you're watching the replay, but please feel free to come and comment because this is my new platform, The Legal Score, where I combine some sports, mostly law, life, and faith. And I'll be live with you every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget to join me on Friday nights with Friday with the Fellas and Wednesdays on my regular Prim and Proper Sports show, all on The Legal Score. Join me tomorrow morning, guys. Make sure you join the big sports show at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Move those clocks up tonight so that you don't miss the cue. And if you get a chance, get out there and go to church. I'm definitely going to be going. It's a beautiful spring day in Georgia. All you pollen sufferers, my sympathies in advance. So I appreciate everybody. And I hope you guys have the most amazing day. Jeremy, it's been great hanging out with you and David. And y'all take care. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.